What's up guys? Conrad here with another video, and today we're going to be discussing the phrase in the world but not of the world. I got a lot to get through, and so I'm going to predominantly be reading from my laptop. So, basically, the phrase in the world but not of the world is a reference that has its origins from the Bible, but in this case I'm going to refer to more how this phrase can be applied to everyday life in the modern world. Now, this is just my interpretation, and so perhaps you can relate to some of it, and so after which you may be able to determine where you stand. So, overall, it is the acknowledgement that we are living in a world that is mostly dominated by corruption, degeneracy, and evil. Yet we decide we don't want to be associated with it. Now, evil may be a bit of a strong word to use, but for the sake of the argument, let's say that whoever runs the world is probably not a saint or has your best interest at heart. You don't have to hate that the world is like this, but you need to be able to navigate through it. You're going to be surrounded by morally questionable situations and people that do things that are not conducive to the betterment of themselves or society. But it doesn't mean that you need to become a part of it. You're not so easily manipulated by whatever agenda is telling you what you should do, think, or feel, as you're in the world but not of it. You're very much aware and not blind to what is actually happening around you. And you simply don't just go along to get along. So what does it mean to be someone who is of the world? Well, I'd say that it's someone who is very much influenced by the establishment or the media. Whatever political affiliation is currently being heavily promoted, that is the one you're most likely going to reside with, as it seems to resonate with the vast majority of people. Not saying that it is inherently a negative thing or that it makes you lesser of a good person, but it makes you very susceptible to having your values determined by what is considered cool or popular. Now, this person is going to believe that they are on the side of virtue, when in fact they may be being misled for the benefit of corporate gain. Now, most people in their hearts are not going to follow any ideology that inherently they know would make them a bad person. But nowadays, you could say that most things are morally subjective, and that the mainstream media have successfully blurred the line and have created a lot of confusion. So whatever political movements are hot right now are usually the ones that are outside the realms of traditionalism. It's more about rebellion against tradition. Now, you could say that being of the world makes someone like an NPC, a non-playable character. So someone who is just walking around in the background of a video game just to make the environment more lively, with no real authentic personality. So you generally do as you're told, you believe in most things you hear coming from the TV and radio, and you don't really think for yourself. You like to follow the crowd as you feel like you're now in a safe space. Now, here's another thing. If you're someone who is of the world, you probably get along with most people. You can be friends with, everyone and anyone. You're very sociable and you know how to interact with, most personalities, like an extroverted social butterfly. This can be a good thing, although it is worth trying to figure out which kind of people you really resonate with and get along with on a more genuine level. Someone who is more introverted would probably seek more meaningful friendships rather than superfluous and superficial ones. So for someone who would consider themselves to be not of this world, are probably going to be more selective with their friends. They choose people who are more aligned with their core values, which may go against the grain of whatever is currently mainstream. It is about forming a strong community of like-minded individuals. For someone who is not of the world, you're not really into the current low vibrational music or movies that have obvious political ideologies infused into its message. You see with today's music videos that a lot of them are kind of, let's say, tacky, vulgar, and not necessarily creatively artistic, at least not in the traditional sense. Now, you may be more inclined to being more entrepreneurial rather than working a typical corporate job or jobs that work within a system that is not in line with your values. Now, this can also be a detriment because sometimes you got to be able to play the game in this society. So perhaps more blue-collar work would be more suited to your attributes and inclinations on top of your rebellious nature. You don't identify with any particular political affiliation, and if you do, it's not that much a part of your identity or who you are as a person. Now, corporate politics or gossip just isn't all that interesting to you. It does nothing to improve the direction of your life. It's just a silly distraction. You probably avoid mainstream fast food chains for obvious reasons, and you're somewhat of a lone wolf, unless you can find people who share similar beliefs to you. Now, regarding spirituality, you're probably more inclined to follow more traditional religions, but that's not always the case, as many atheists could probably share similar beliefs regarding the negative aspects of modern Western society. The modern dating world is somewhat repulsive to those who are not of the world. You could say that hookup culture is an example of this. Just look at the current interviews on TikTok or YouTube of young drunk people in the club talking about who cheats more, men or women, or all the messed up things they have done behind their partner's back, or what is someone's body count. Like, you see all that stuff and think it's kind of depressing. And I don't really want to live on this planet anymore. Same with the clubbing life. It just doesn't particularly interest you. And it's generally filled with attractive people, but most of the time you're not expecting them to have much substance other than drugs and alcohol. And this is not a sustainable lifestyle, and there's very much a superficial atmosphere within those environments. Now, when you pursue a relationship, then it would be with at least the intention to find some sort of meaning or connection, whatever that may be. Not to say that you have overcome your lust or you're over being allured by an attractive person that is down to hook up, but perhaps you have more discernment and restraint when it comes to navigating romantic relationships. You simply look at the world and realize how 99% of everything that we are supposed to consume and what we are led to believe is bullshit. And you are way past taking any of it seriously anymore. And so you just much rather seek information from alternative sources. So here's the thing. You need to observe the world through a third-person perspective, rather than getting lost in it. Looking from the outside, rather than becoming a product of your environment. You question everything, but you also tend to look internally and strive to figure out, why do I feel the way I feel? And what is it I truly want in this life? Now, one could say that having these particular beliefs and characteristics makes you a doomer or a sigma. Now, these are exaggerated caricatures, but they're a good example to use. So both have similar attributes, but are different archetypes. So the doomer is nihilistic, depressed, lost all hope, and not really sure how to find his way in this world in order to live a successful and happy life. He's just getting trodden on by society. The sigma is the lone wolf, and he sees how he can manipulate the rigged system for his own gain. Someone who isn't so concerned with rising to the top of the social hierarchy. So one archetype is simply less of a slave than the other, and chooses to take positive action rather than give up on life. To be in this world but not of it, to its core, means to have independent thought, and seeing the holes and opportunities that the world presents itself with, and being able to take advantage of them. You're a capitalist and a creator in a world that is rigged with rules that most people swear by and fight to defend. Perhaps you want to do things differently. You're not merely a follower or consumer. Now here's the thing. It is more of a lonely lifestyle to be not of this world. But that works better for me because it is not necessarily in my nature to be a social butterfly who's always up to party and be up in everyone's business. You don't have to be that way to be liked. You mind your own business and you don't feel the need to be popular, even if your profession depends on your mass appeal. So the extremists would probably want to live outside of society in a small village somewhere in the country away from, big metropolitan cities, or perhaps a cabin in the woods. Now, if you acknowledge that you're not necessarily of the world, but you're in the world, you still can have an appreciation of different cultures. You respect other religions and are curious to visit other countries in order to gain new perspectives and find out that not everyone is going to follow the same ideals as you or people from your local area. It is sometimes good to have your perceptions challenged because you may have a few blind spots, but you know your own boundaries and what you believe to be true. Now, if you resonate with any of this, you may feel like an outcast or there is something wrong with you and for not wanting to be part of the world, the system, or quote unquote the matrix. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just that the world is, it caters more to the people who are not as inclined to think outside of the box. A certain level of isolation just goes with the territory. The defining factor is whether you're going to let all of this get you down or are you going to make your own mark on the world. You don't have to go along with the crowd or necessarily, be better than everyone else, but you should be an original and try to stand out in your own unique way. Ideally, you have somewhat of a stoic attitude towards life. You try not to let things affect you too much emotionally, even though calling out things such as hypocrisy would sometimes be justifiable. Yeah, there's a whole lot of BS happening in the world. People can be really stupid, but that's just the world we live in. It's less than perfect. It isn't necessarily all good or all bad. You just got to be able to survive with elegance and grace. Play the game whilst knowing the games that are being played on all of us. And so, with that being said, hopefully you found this video interesting. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.